The first photograph changed 3 days after my wife died. It was our wedding photo, the one that had sat on the dresser for 11 years. Elise stood beneath the courthouse awning with rain caught in her hair. She was laughing because the storm had ruined her makeup, and I was holding her hand too tightly because I was trying not to cry. That was how I remembered it. But that night, I wasn't beside her. A woman was. Dark hair, pale skin, a black sweater, and pinned above her heart was a small silver brooch. Inside the brooch was a photograph too tiny to see. She stood where I should have been, holding my wife's hand, smiling like she had always belonged there. I blinked, and I was back. My hand in Elise's. My wife beside me, alone. I told myself it was grief. Grief makes strange things feel possible. It lets empty rooms feel occupied. It makes silence sound like breathing. It makes you see things in reflections that are gone when you turn around. So I placed the photograph face down and went to bed. 2 nights later, the voicemail changed. Elise left it during the last normal evening we ever shared. The power had gone out during a storm, so we sat in the kitchen by candlelight, eating soup from chipped bowls while rain hammered the windows. She was already dying. We both knew it, but neither of us said it. For a few hours, we pretended life was still ordinary. At some point, she rested her head on folded arms and smiled at the rain. Then she whispered, "If I fall asleep first, wake me when the rain stops." I laughed. Deal. A few hours later, I drove her back to the hospital. She never came home. That sentence became the last ordinary thing she ever gave me. Not a dramatic goodbye. Not final words. Just a small request. A promise I never got the chance to keep. I had the voicemail because she said it again before falling asleep. Softly, almost laughing. "If I fall asleep first, wake me when the rain stops." I listened to it every night after she died, until one night the recording changed. Same rain, same voice, same tired little laugh. But the words were different. "If I fall asleep first, tell her to wake me when the rain stops." I stopped breathing. I replayed it. Again, again, again. The words never changed back. The next morning, I checked the wedding photograph. The woman stood between us. This time, Elise wasn't looking at the camera. She was looking at her, smiling, the way she used to smile at me. That was when fear arrived. Not the fear of ghosts. Not the fear of madness. The fear that something was taking my place. I searched every photograph in the house. Birthdays, vacations, Christmas mornings, my father's funeral, old Polaroids. The woman appeared in all of them, sometimes standing in doorways, sometimes reflected in mirrors, sometimes barely visible behind crowds, always wearing the silver brooch. And each time I found her, the photograph inside the brooch became clearer. At first, it was only static, then shapes, then a candle, then a kitchen table, then 2 bowls, then rain on a window. The brooch was not collecting my life. It was collecting the wound. My mother saw her too, at least for a moment. Dementia had already taken most of my mother years earlier. Some days she remembered me. Most days she didn't. When I showed her the photograph, she touched the woman's brooch and began to cry. Not gently, not sadly, terrified. She's almost finished. You know her? For one brief second, my mother's eyes cleared. The fog lifted, and she whispered, when she takes the last memory, you'll start loving her. Then she forgot who I was again. She died 4 days later. At the funeral, there were 9 people. I counted them because numbers felt safer than grief. 9 people, and the woman, standing beneath an oak tree, watching, waiting. No one else saw her. I walked toward her. Up close, she looked ordinary, human. That made her worse. What are you? I asked. She tilted her head. The person people choose. I didn't choose you. Not yet. The silver brooch caught the gray light. Inside it, I saw Elise. Healthy, young, alive. Looking at the woman with tenderness I remembered as mine. I reached for the brooch. The woman stepped back. For one brief moment, her smile slipped. Underneath it was something exhausted, something frightened. Then the smile returned, and she walked away. For 3 months, I followed her through other people's losses. Hospital records, old town archives, family albums, obituaries. Wherever grief had hollowed someone out, she appeared. Behind them first, then beside them, then in their place. Children remember different parents. Widowers remember different wives. Families rearrange themselves around someone better, not erased, improved. That was the horror. The world did not forget people. The world replaced them. Eventually, I found the archive beneath an abandoned records building. Rows of filing cabinets stretched into darkness. Each drawer held one life. Photographs, letters, voicemails, birthday cards. Every file contained the woman, growing closer, year after year, memory after memory, until the original person became a stranger in their own story. My file waited near the back. Daniel Kerr. Inside were hundreds of photographs. My childhood, my father, my wedding, my marriage. At first, I was there. Then less of me. Then almost none. In the newest version of the wedding photograph, Elise held the woman's hand. In the hospital photographs, the woman sat beside her bed. In the kitchen photograph, the woman sat across from Elise during the storm. 2 bowls, 1 candle, rain on the window. My last night with my wife. Only I was gone. I picked up the photograph. I could still remember Elise's face, her laugh, her voice, but I could no longer remember the sentence. I knew she had asked me something. I knew I had promised, but the words were gone. Only the shape remained. The woman appeared behind me. I didn't turn. Her hand touched my shoulder. Cold, gentle, and suddenly I saw another life. The better one. A version of me who never failed. A version who sat through every appointment, remembered every medication, never lost patience, never secretly wished things could go back to normal. A husband worthy of Elise. The woman leaned close. Wouldn't you rather she had been loved correctly? I hated her, because for one terrible second, I wanted to say yes. That was when I understood. She didn't force her way into people's lives. She waited, patiently, outside the locked room where we hide every regret. The better husband, the better wife, the better son, the better version. And eventually, someone opens the door. The silver brooch touched my cheek. Inside it was a photograph of me, smiling, peaceful, free of guilt. The man I wished I had been. I looked, and Elise's sentence vanished forever. Not her face, not her voice, not her laugh. Just the sentence. The final ordinary thing she ever gave me. Gone. That was 7 years ago. I still work in the archive. People come here carrying photographs. They always ask the same question. Who's the woman in the background? I never answer. Because by then, it is already too late. They have seen the brooch. And nobody looks into it without finding the life they secretly wanted. Last month, a man arrived carrying a wedding album. His hands shook as he opened it. "My wife keeps appearing beside this woman," he said. I looked down. There she was, standing behind the bride, closer than the groom. The lights flickered. Rain began tapping against the archive walls. There are no windows in the archive. The man looked around, confused. Then I noticed something. In the wedding photograph, the bride wasn't looking at the groom. She wasn't looking at the woman. She was looking at an empty chair near the edge of the frame. I checked another photograph. Same chair. Another. Same chair. Another. Same chair. A chair that did not belong. A chair no one ever mentioned. A chair no one sat in. The woman appeared behind the man. For the first time since I had known her, she wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the chair. And she looked afraid. Not cautious. Not worried. Afraid. The silver brooch clicked open. Inside was a photograph. Not Elise. Not me. Not the man. The woman. Younger. Crying. Standing beside someone who had been cut out of the picture. Not blurred. Not faded. Cut out. The edges were jagged. Violent. Human. The woman snapped the brooch shut. The rain stopped. The archive fell silent. And I understood something I was never meant to understand. She was not the first replacement. She was only another survivor. The lights flickered again. The man disappeared. No scream. No sound. Just gone. His wedding album remained on the floor. Every photograph showed the bride standing alone, still smiling, still looking toward the empty chair. The woman stared into the darkness between the filing cabinets, like she was waiting for something. Then she stepped backward. One step, then another, retreating. For the first time, I looked at the nearest photograph. Then another. Then another. Weddings. Hospitals. Birthdays. Funerals. Classrooms. Living rooms. Thousands of photographs. And in every single one, there was an empty chair somewhere in the frame, waiting, turned slightly toward the people inside, as if someone had just stood up, or was about to sit down. The woman whispered something, then, so quietly I almost missed it. A single word. "Please." Not to me. To the chair. The lights went out. And, somewhere, in the darkness, something pulled a chair across the floor. Slowly, patiently. The sound continued long after the rain stopped. Later, I found the man's phone on the floor beside the wedding album. It was still recording. Static filled most of the file. Then rain. Then the scrape of wood. Then my own voice. Except I did not remember speaking. I heard myself whisper, "If I fall asleep first." The rest was silence. I played it again and again. Each time, my voice sounded less like mine. By morning, I could no longer remember what Elise sounded like, only that I used to know. That is the final cruelty. Not forgetting, knowing there was something to remember, and being left with the shape of it. Now, whenever someone brings me a photograph, I do not look for the woman first. I look for the chair. If it is already there, I close the file. If it is turned toward them, I leave the room. And if the chair is empty, I know it has already chosen where to sit.